I've had 4 bone injuries, and so, like, the resilience there, like, that's what I'm proud of versus even, like, the end result. I try not to obsess too much over numbers and, like, splits and things like that. I think a lot of racing comes down to, like, heart and grit. I want it really bad, and so when it comes down to it, I'm gonna fight for, wins and making it to finals and competing in the final and scoring for Wake Forest.
The pass was made by Margot Loja, returning the favor.
It's Will Loja, second straight year. What a battle.
And the young man running for the hometown Terriers will win.
Let's go, Will, finish.
Now Will Loja taking it out.
Will Loja, Gilbert, Will Loja, we got
Will Loja, huge kick.
Welcome to The Kick, a runner's podcast. I'm your host, Will Loja. I love running and I love a good kick. And today's guest is none other than Elizabeth Whaley of Wake Forest. She just set the school record in the women's 1500 at her very own Wake Forest Invitational last week. So without further ado, welcome to the show. What perfect timing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So take me through that event. Obviously, you got to be at your own home track and set that school record. Were you expecting it going in? Were you hoping to get it? Was it on your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started the Invitational just a few years back, I think when I was a freshman. And so it's kind of been built up into this really neat event. And it, started out like a good invite my freshman year, but ever since has just gotten more and more selective. And they do a really good job just putting on a great meet here. And so also being at home, like I had my family here, I had my whole team here, I had even like 4 different professors come and watch me. And so just knowing that you have like your entire community and a team and a program that's fully behind you is so cool. And it just means so much more when like your trainers are over there and, all those different support staff are around. And so day of, or just kind of week going into it, I was like, I knew how I would feel. And I knew that like, that makes me run with heart that much more. And I was like, I'm ready for it. And I think I just know that like knew my fitness was there and that I could, kind of shoot for it if I, told myself that I could. And so going into it, I was like, all I wanted was the record just because it's fun to chase goals. And so realistically, I thought I could do like 4:12 or so on the day. But I was like mentally prepared. I'm like, whatever it's going to take, like, I'm just going to give every last ounce of what I have. And I never like look at splits or no splits while I'm racing. Like I'm just going for it. And so I didn't even know what I was on pace to run during the race. And I was just like, get to that finish line as quick as I can. And I was honestly pretty in shock when I crossed the finish line, just like, whew, I never thought I would run that fast. And so really exciting now to know that I can do that. And so gives you kind of like this next level of self-belief and like capacity of what I can do next, which is really cool.
409.7 was the final mark. Did you go into the last lap at least seeing the time and being like, okay, I need to drop whatever last lap? I felt like that's always something I did while racing and like kind of got me through the final lap. What was that like?
What's funny is like I literally just zone out when I race. So I had, like I said, like no idea what I was on pace to hit. Even like the coaches obviously knew, all my friends knew, but I was just like eyes down the line. Like I, for some reason, can't ever like see the clock when I race. I just like get so zoned in. And so I really had no idea. But I knew that like I was aiming for it and I could tell by the way like my coaches and friends were cheering me on that I was like, I just got to believe that I'm at least close and just not give up any second. And so, yeah, I really didn't even know what I was on pace for, but I was like, at the end of the day, how I race is like, irregardless of if it's the home meet or some little invitational or, little things that we do throughout the year, like I want to give it my best on the day, whatever that looks like. So.
Yeah. I love your attitude because I came from a high school coach who was very much about the competition. He didn't let anybody wear watches during races. We even had workouts where he made us take off our watches.
Yep.
Like that's what it was about. And I feel like that ingrained in me from very early on in my career. Like it's the times will come when you
Yes.
compete. And it sounds like you embody that, which is really cool.
Absolutely. In high school, I never knew my workouts until day of. Didn't wear a watch, didn't track runs, didn't even know my mileage coming into college. So that's kind of how I grew up and a little bit how I train these days. Obviously, there were some tweaks made, but And I know my mileage and all of that. But beyond that, like I try not to obsess too much over numbers and like splits and things like that. I think a lot of racing comes down to like heart and grit. So
I just had a reunion with some of my high school um, running teammates, and we were talking about how we never knew how much mileage we were running in a
Right.
week. Like it
Like,
never even crossed our mind.
no.
And a lot of us then ran in college, and obviously then you start like paying attention to that stuff.
Yep.
But it was kind of, yeah, a special time when we just were like, all right, coach, like what do we have to do? And then
Exactly.
up to the line.
Totally freeing, honestly. Sometimes I think people can get a little bit too much in their head, especially at the like college level of, oh, what are my competitors doing? And you start playing the comparison game. So yeah, I would definitely appreciated that I was raised that way kind of throughout high school too.
So, how has it felt walking around campus now this past week? You know, you get to say it's a pretty prestigious school and program, and you're like, yeah, no woman has ever run that fast in the 1500 meter. Have you been kind of like replaying it in your head, reminding yourself?
Yeah, I think in moments like this, I'm like very careful. I don't want to let my head get too big. At the end of the day, like it's really cool and I'm really proud of it, but I also am like it doesn't, like change who like I'm just a human. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying not to like think too much of myself. And I think like at the end of the day I always am more proud of the things that like people don't see and not as much of like the actual results, but all the work that I'd put into in like the years and months before that. And like I've had 4 bone injuries, and so, like, just kind of the resilience there, like, that's what I'm proud of versus even, like, the end result, like, I think the daily efforts are more, like, kind of what I look to, but it has been cool, and, like, it's been really neat to have, like I said, like, professors. Wake's a smaller school, so I have smaller classes, so professors really, like, do care about their students and pay attention to those things, so it's been really nice just seeing, like, an outpour of love and support, and so that's why I think I'm really grateful to be where I'm at right now. So,
Yeah, soak it up. I mean, you're a senior, right? So, is this the last dance, or are you thinking maybe there's a fifth year in order? What are
yeah.
the thoughts there?
Last dance, I think. As of right now, I really only have cross country and I've been interning for a company, so I have a job in Charlotte that I'll be going to, but it's been fun. I have actually a lot of teammates who said they would be done with running after college and then have found their way back to the sport, whether that's still just racing competitively, doing road miles, one's like training for the Olympic marathon trials. And, like you realize that running can be a lifelong thing and you get to decide what that looks like after. And so I don't think college running, but it could be something where, I keep training. I had a friend take 6 months off and then she was like, I missed it. So she started training again and actually raced at the home meet with me. So things like that. I think I've been talking to everyone about it, obviously. And I was like, it's going to be a day of decision, right? Like, um, granted, I make it to nationals. Like on that day, how does my body feel? Where's my heart at? But I definitely think I've always loved the sport. I've never lost love for it, which I'm really grateful for. And so I have a superstition or a suspicion that I'll find my way back to it.
The only advice I would give is to not leave at all. Even if you're, congrats on the job. Even if you're stepping away for a bit competitively, keep running because you won't regret it.
I know I'll
But
never
I
lose that.
yeah. But it feels like, with a result like this and kind of your trajectory, there could be potential, obviously for, making an NCAA championship, and then you never know what can happen there. As you mentioned earlier, you're not someone who's just so focused on the clock, and I personally think that that translates the best to those NCAA meets because now you're just competing. I saw that you placed, I forget the exact place, but you scored at the indoor ACC mile championships. And that's a really stacked field.
Mhm.
Personally, my friend Vera, who used to be my teammate, now she runs for UNC, she's in there. So I think very highly of
She's
her. And
great.
obviously Sadie Engelhart.
Yep.
So a lot of big names in there. You get that experience in your conference. How do you think that sets you up for the biggest stages like the NCAA championships?
Yeah, I think all throughout my career, have yet to kind of reach this level of performance where I suddenly like really can compete with those people. But over the past few years, I've kind of gone into ACCs as like the underdog, the person that nobody expects to make it to finals. Like some of those other names you listed, like they're kind of a given where they just, do their thing and assume they'll be in the finals. And so previously I've had to get really tactical in the prelims and making it and taking it, out fast or different strategies. And so I think now knowing that I'm coming in a different position, it'll be really cool to talk with my coach and really develop a different strategy and figure out, how we want to navigate that. But I think also to that point, like I never thought that I was beyond that category. Like I don't think you should ever consider yourself just within one group of performers or the same people you're always racing against. I think you should always be looking up and at who else you can chase down. So I'm excited to race those girls. I think again, like you can always surprise yourself, and especially for me, like I want it really bad. And so when it comes down to it, I'm going to fight for wins and making it to finals and competing in the final and scoring for Wake Forest. And so I think when you focus on competition, you definitely like this past weekend, leave room to surprise yourself with what you can do. So excited to see how all of that plays out for sure.
I happened to notice that the 1500 PR also came with an 800 PR, so you doubled at the meet.
Yeah.
Do you have is the 1500 the preferred event, or do you feel like, could be 8 or could be something else?
The 1500 is definitely my bread and butter. It's been just kind of like we've tried going up, we've tried going down. We did the 800 more to just kind of like see where I was at with it at the home meet and get a little extra like tune up in before the 1500. But I think it was a good benchmark of like, okay, here's where we're at. It was my first 800 in a long time. So I think I even had to like remind myself what it was like tactically racing that. And so, yeah, we're actually kind of talking with my coach now this week of, okay, where do we go with this? I do think I'll lean more towards the 1500 just because I have a lot more experience in that. But yeah, we don't know yet. So fun to have that opportunity. And it was fun to get a little PR, not a crazy one, but a little one this past weekend.
Yeah, and it sounds like was the 800 before the 15, so I guess got the wheels turning a bit for, getting you going. But also goes to show there might be even more on the table with the 15 if you weren't fresh. Do you think is the next race going to be before ACCs, or are you kind of gearing up for conference now? Is there going to be anything before
Wow.
that? I know we talked before the episode about Penn Relays, which is going on right now,
Yep.
and Wake Forest has a couple guys there, but on the women's side, it doesn't sound like you guys went.
Yeah, no women there right now. And then our next race would be the Duke Twilight Invitational, which is on the 3rd of May. Just debating with my coach today about what that's going to look like and trade-offs versus benefits of racing that and what workouts we want to get in before championships. So yeah, that's all kind of up in the air right now. It's kind of fun. Like I said, like we've never really been in this opportunity where we don't have to race necessarily to like hit standards or things like that. Actually, last year I was injured, so I did my first land workout the day of the Wake Forest Invitational, and then had to use the Duke Invitational and a race in Charlotte to qualify for ACCs and then regionals. And so that was a very different approach where like we needed every race opportunity we could get. But now we are afforded the opportunity to kind of think more strategically about how we want to train and what benefits we would glean. But I love that Duke Invitational. So mixed feelings about that one, but I think we're just going to see what works out best. So yeah,
Twilight meets are the best. They're a lot of fun.
truly. And Duke puts on a good one, gotta say.
Really cool. I know Wake Forest was always I learned just from you that it's a relatively new event, but that was always an event that the BU team that I was on, we would send a small group there and everybody always loved it. Just getting out of the colder Northeast weather at this time of year. But I know you had a lot of experiences coming up to Boston during the indoor season. I'm curious, are there any moments from traveling to BU for meets that stand out to you as very memorable? I always like to ask about that.
Oh my gosh, of course. Those trips are the most fun and also end up being like the most random. Sometimes you get like snowstorms and it's just fun to explore a different city, especially like we're near Winston-Salem, which isn't huge. So it's fun to like get that little bit of the city, especially when winter can get a little drab. So we always look forward to our Boston trips. I think one thing I have to shout out is our team loves Tate. So every time we go, literally as many times as we can, we will make a trip to a Tate and share croissants and like all their fun little baked goods. So that's definitely been memorable. And my aunt actually lives in Maine, and so she always drives down and watches me. So that's definitely made it really memorable. I can't remember all the names, but have definitely had a lot of good restaurants and all that good stuff. So always enjoy going up there.
That's awesome. Yeah, Tate, definitely very prevalent in Boston. Winston-Salem is actually a place that I visited, so I have an older sister, and when she was visiting colleges, I would go along on all the visits, and Wake Forest was my favorite. Like, it was definitely my favorite campus. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Oh,
Years later, I never revisited it on my own search, but at the time, I was like, "This is the most beautiful campus, like,
yeah.
this is awesome."
I've loved it. Like, I've loved every minute of it. Not to say that there weren't challenging parts, but I really, like, can't envision myself anywhere else, and to be completely transparent, when I like, you think back to the recruiting days, like, I honestly didn't really know, like, what was going on, like, what college was, and so I always say, like, it's a miracle that I landed here, but I wouldn't have traded it for any other school, and particularly, like, the program and the people that I've had access to here have definitely just changed my life. Like, I really do believe in that, and I think my career and, like, who I am as a person would be very different elsewhere, and so I think that just comes down to, like, coaching and mentorship opportunities, and yeah, Wake has just kind of pushed me to be like a fierce competitor, but also an empathetic leader. And so I feel like I've developed like the performance is one thing, but just like who I am as a person has changed a lot being here. And my coach, Ashley Bastian, I'm captain of the team. And so there's been a lot of life lessons in that. And one of them is I'm a really passive, like non confrontational person. And so, but she's taught me like how to lead with accountability, how to like challenge people. And so I think that's been a party probably one of my biggest takeaways here. And then also just the importance of work ethic. Our coaches give a lot of authority and autonomy to us. And I think for any distance runner, like a lot of your training is on your own. You only practice so much. And then whether it's jogging on your own or like we cross train a lot on our own, especially me. And so I think understanding that like what you're willing to give and sacrifice, pays off in the long term. And so that's been a really cool lesson in my time here. And I actually just had someone reach out to get recruited. And I love to say, like, that's one of my favorite things is getting to share about my experience to others, getting to recommend the program because I would love for other people to come here because I think it's kind of a hidden gem. Like, it's a smaller school, especially on the women's side. Like, the men's program is obviously renowned. But our women's program has been truly, we call it Deeks on the rise. But it's been growing and getting stronger year after year. And so I think it's just been a beautiful thing to see. And yeah, like our women's cross country team made it to nationals for the first time in I think it was 19 years this year. And so just seeing that growth within the program too has been really cool in my time here at Wake and seeing how younger girls then step up and grow into leaders, I think is just really, really neat. Yeah, I could talk about it all day long. So if you have any specific questions, I guess that would be
Oh,
good too.
I love that so much. I mean, it obviously sounds like you've learned a lot, but now being a captain, I can only imagine the example that you're setting for the next generation, and not just through your performances, obviously, but also just being having a great perspective on all these things. So that's really cool. But yeah, go Demon Deacons. I love Wake Forest.
Peace on the rise. Look out.
I feel like you guys have a bit of a reputation as like it's not necessarily in any given sport, but like in the ACC, like you're maybe like the underdog team that like
Absolutely.
not everybody sees coming. Do you like going into meets kind of feeling like, all right, like I'm gonna put us on the map here and show everybody?
Yeah, I think because yeah, our school's smaller, like less of that kind of like brand name appeal that a lot of the big universities have. I think that gives us a really unique opportunity to like really have pride in who we are and like feel like, tie our identity with the universities in kind of this beautiful way where like, yeah, we do have that underdog reputation and So it makes that big of a difference when we do achieve and we put our name on the map kind of, and, like, it's just every time I put on that Wake uniform, I'm thinking about how proud I am to represent the school, and I think that also comes back to being part of a program where, like, you really believe in, like, who you're a part of and what they're doing, and so I think that level of, like, mutual investment between, the actual athletes and students and the university has been really cool, and yeah, it's kind of fun to just, be the kind of unique one in the crowd or the underdog, and it's fun to, yeah, just represent, I would say.
I remember when I was tagging along for a tour there, like the tour guide kept making jokes about the sports, and that was like probably more than 10 years ago now. And I feel like the programs have come a long way. Like just
Labs.
athletically, I feel like yeah, Deke's on the rise for sure. Really cool to see. What is your cross training routine like? Even when you're not injured, it sounds like you incorporate that a lot, and I want to hear about that.
I'm probably one of the biggest proponents of cross training and the benefits and competitive advantages it can give you. Yeah, definitely. I'm an injury prone runner, and so in my years at Wake, me and my coach Ashley have kind of had to like rethink the traditional training plan for me. And she does a great job of customizing training plans to the person. And so my like best friend and roommate Mackenzie can run 70 miles a week, but if I tried that, like that would not work. And so maybe if you build up to it, but it's hard to build that much in a 4-year career. And so we had to say, okay, how are we going to approach this? And I think cross training has been the easiest way for me to still get in all of the benefits of training, but with less impact on my bones and all the good things that you know about. But yeah, I do it probably equally, if not more, than running, which is really interesting. And so primarily like biking, ellipticaling, occasionally some swimming. And it's definitely like not my favorite thing to do. Like I love running as much as I can be outside and doing all of that. It's great. But I think it's one of those areas where you're like, okay, if I'm disciplined in this, then I get to do what I love just that much more. And so I think that's something I've tried to instill in like other peers and other runners. You don't have to be logging the 80 miles a week and all of that. And I know Parker Valby was a great example of that, kind of spreading awareness for just how effective it can be. And I think a lot of people are afraid of doing it because they think, oh, I like won't stay as fit. But I think it honestly to me is like the biggest competitive advantage that you can have. You can train really effectively. It's really good to kind of like mix up what muscles you're using. And so I think that has definitely transformed like how I can train and my ability to stay healthy. And honestly, like my goal for this year, it wasn't performance based. I just wanted to be out there for multiple years. Like I had injury after injury and recovery after recovery. And so I think my coach and I were able to build a very sustainable long-term program that has served me really well. And so I think being willing to have that flexible mindset of like, okay, my training plan does not look like every other, runner who posts in the distance world, but that's okay. And sometimes that's even better because, yeah, you can unlock little competitive advantages if you just open yourself up to that mindset.
I have so much respect for cross training. Having had to do it out of necessity, being injured as well, it is like it can be the most
The worst.
unpleasant. Like it is
It
so
really
not
is.
fun.
Yeah.
And for people like us who love running, it's you're doing something that's like not what you want to be doing. And then I think when you get on the line and you're running, you feel like you've really earned it now, and like
Yeah.
you're almost more excited to do the running because you
Oh,
don't get to do it all the time.
absolutely. I remember I was walking into a meet with a teammate earlier this year, and he's also injury prone, and I think it was Liberty, but they have like an elliptical right in the front of the track. And like we're going to race, and of course, like we're all like a little nervous, like first race of indoor, and I was like, oh, like a little nervous going in. And then I see somebody on that elliptical, and I just turn to him and I'm like, I would rather race any day, you know what I mean? And racing's fun, obviously, but like again, like I would take, any like hard, challenging, anxiety inducing thing over that elliptical, So, but again, I think if you learn to like love it and get comfortable with it and like accept that it's going to be a sacrifice for a long-term result, then like you can kind of come to peace with it and just know that like discipline in that area is what you need to succeed.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues sometimes, but
Exactly.
I also think, a lot of people hear like, "Oh, you're on the bike, you're on this," and you can do it in a way that isn't that difficult. But my hunch is that, somebody like you at this elite level, like when you're going to cross train, I've spoken to Parker Valby before, like she is going hard, like she is
Right.
sweating, she is really getting that heart rate up because you have to, if you're going to get your heart rate up to a level that's comparable to running, you have to really be working on that bike. So are you kind of like crazy when you're cross training? You going hard?
Yeah. So I think definitely want to differentiate, like when you're coming back from injury, that's probably not the time to really be hammering. Like until you're fully like energy restored, all of that, like yes, go for it, take it easy. But for me, when it's part of my just normal training regimen and I'm fully healthy, like I'm going to the well sometimes. And so again, I think it's not just like the physical gain you get from that, but it's also the mental gain of like you're figuring out how to feel comfortable with discomfort. And so I think a lot of people overlook that aspect of it is like, not only are you getting your heart rate up, are you like heat acclimating, all of that, all of those things, but like you're teaching yourself how to get comfortable with pain. And it'll be really hard some days. And we have like some ellipticals upstairs, and on a hot day, like that room gets heated. And I mean, you're going to work. Sometimes I was like trying to talk to my teammates about like just how hard you got to work to get the benefit. And I was like, sometimes I'm on that machine just like cursing it out, or like, just you want to like give it all up, but you just yeah, you power through. And I think yeah, a lot of people got to realize that it's not just like spinning the legs, like again, it's a sacrifice to go put in that work.
I think there's an advantage to it because in running, you really can only do maybe like 2, 3 workouts a week, and then you have to spend the rest of the days recovering. Whereas a sport like swimming, they're working out like every day because the
Really.
recovery is very different.
Mhm.
And when you're incorporating things like swimming or biking and these cross training methods, you kind of are able to go hard on a recovery day. So for people who are like grinders and really want to feel like they're working, a recovery run, you don't really feel like you're grinding, but
Yep.
like a recovery day on the bike, you actually can get that feeling. So
Right. And again, mentally, like you're just kind of like your brain's getting more and more tolerant of pain. And that's ultimately what running's about, is teaching your brain how to like stay in control even when your body's freaking out, but like pushing through that like mental block of like, oh, I'm hurting, I need to ease off. But again, all within reason too. Like I'm not sitting on the bike for like 5 hours or anything like that. So not that crazy.
very, very good discussion on cross training. One of the best I've had.
I'm
Um,
probably one of the best people to talk to about it. I'm very familiar.
Very appreciative. I think a lot of people can learn from it, whether they're injured right now. Everybody's gonna be injured at some point. So
Exactly.
glad
Yeah.
that you found your groove, though. Knock on wood that that continues. But so I think I have a good feeling about it. Um, One thing that I came across in researching for this episode is that you have, well, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like some sort of partnership with Brooks Running. So I'd
Mhm.
love to hear what you're able to share about that. Really cool.
Yeah, so I actually just discovered that opportunity through post game, and so yeah, developed a partnership with them. Was sent some of their products, so I was able to give them a little test run, and that was really fun. I like grew up running in Brooks. I actually started running in kindergarten, so don't know when I officially became a Brooks gal. I think it was in high school. I showed up to the track, and my coach was like, "Yeah, you better go get some real running shoes." And so yeah, it was kind of nostalgic to be able to partner with them because that's kind of what I did as a kid. Obviously, coming to Wake, wearing Nikes because that's the Wake shoe. But it was really cool to be able to build that partnership. And my sister actually lives out in Seattle and does some partnerships with them herself for her job. So it's just a really cool opportunity. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, we had a couple weeks ago Tegan Scheinbecker on the show. She's part of the Brooks Beasts. So she's out in Seattle,
Awesome.
but she told a similar story of having her first pair of running shoes was Brooks. And I think you hear that a lot. I think you had the glycerins, right? You
Yes.
run in the glycerins. And man, that shoe is everywhere. I feel like
It
I need to
is.
run in it because
Yep.
I got it for my dad. He likes to run it. Got it for him
Yep.
for Christmas. Literally yesterday, I was on the phone with an old friend who's starting to run, and he bought the glycerins. So
There
seems like
you
it's the
go.
shoe.
It's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah, and I've been wearing them around, so I'm definitely a fan.
Well, you never know, what can be in store
Yeah.
after college and
Who's
working with a
happy?
brand like that. So I want to get into kind of goals for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a super exciting time of year for everybody, but especially when you just come off of your home invite with a PR and you're going into kind of your last dance, as we said. So in this last little over a month or so, what are your intentions and just trying to soak it all up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on our team, we at least talk a lot about you have your outcome goals and then you have the process goals. And outcome goals are great and shiny and fun to talk about, but then the process goals are what really matter. And so, I mean, some obvious outcome goals would be like nationals, competing well at nationals, competing well at ACCs, again, like representing the team, scoring points, doing all of that. And kind of seeing like to me now I'm like sky's the limit. Like I don't fully know what I'm capable of. And so I think that's the exciting part. Like I don't want to put a specific number to it, but I think I always am looking to like get better, run faster, and I think running with the freedom of like I just did this, like what more can I do? And so that's really cool. But then I think the process goals to back that up is again I kind of learned this year the importance of like having some really hard practices. And so not to say I didn't when I was younger, but I've had some like particularly more challenging sessions where like just mentally going into it, you're like, "Ooh, okay, this one's gonna hurt today." And then I have like a class conflict with our practice schedule, so a lot of these workouts I've had to do with either myself or one other person, and so that has been definitely really tough to just like run some reps alone and kind of sit in that yourself. And so I think again being willing to kind of like go to the well in practice too, because I used to think that like you only do that on race day. And obviously this isn't every practice, this is some occasional ones, but I think showing up with like that hunger and that mentality that like you're willing to go through some pain at a practice because you know it pays off long term is really cool. And then also just kind of staying patient at this time because I think it's really exciting when you run a PR to be like, okay, like let's go get some more. Like, but I think you kind of have to like take a step back and be like, okay, let's not forget the basics of training. Like, let's not change anything too drastically. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And especially like coming off of that PR, like going to elliptical this week and like bike and all of that, I've been like, you know what? Like, that's what's getting the work done. And so that's just kind of that extra motivation. And so like I'm huge on like I never like cut corners on anything. And so I think just maintaining all of those habits that have gotten me here so far and understanding that like there's still a lot left in the season. And so just because like we had an exciting result doesn't mean that anything in our process needs to change. And then yeah, just continuing to refine that kind of like mental self-belief. And I think I've listened to a lot of podcasts like it's like a muscle and you have to train it and you can't just show up on race day and expect to like believe in yourself and everything's perfect. And something I've learned this year is you're never gonna like eliminate the negative thoughts that come into your head. Like even, you know, at the home meet at Raleigh Relays, like sometimes I'm standing on the line, my brain starts to tell me like, oh, you're not ready for this, like this is not the right heat for you, things like that. But it's learning how to like recognize those thoughts, push them away, and then like reinforce your own self-belief. And so that's something that I've been working a lot on this season and something I would practice at like a tough rehearse at like a tough practice or so. And so I think like refining that and like again teaching teammates that, teaching even friends in other sports that I think is really important and it's an often overlooked part of the sport. And so I think a lot of times people think, oh well, these people who are running fast just like think they've got it all together, like they never struggle with anxiety, and like that's not true. It just comes down to like again like finding those routines, figuring out how you're going to manage it. And yeah, so I think that long-winded answer, but that's kind of how I'm approaching the end of the season and not getting too distracted on doing anything crazy fancy, but just kind of sticking to what's been working.
Man, you said you listen to other podcasts. I feel like anybody who's listening to this podcast is going to learn a lot from you. Don't apologize for the long-winded answers because these have been phenomenal. I think you exhibit kind of everything that a team or like a coach would want a senior to be kind of preaching and practicing. And I feel like seeing somebody get to that point is really cool. One thing we didn't really dive into at all was your background in high school, and I'm curious what that background looked like. It looked like you were in the state of Ohio. What kind of, I don't know anything about Ohio high school running,
Yeah.
how competitive it is, and your high school team. But did you kind of start learning these things at that stage? Obviously, Wake Forest has taught you a lot, but curious about that.
Great question. Yeah, my high school experience was kind of special because I went to a smaller school again, and so there was maybe like one girl that I could train with, and other than that, it was some of the boys. And so that kind of created a really special environment where I could develop a really close relationship with my coach, and I think that was probably the most meaningful part of my high school training. And I can't tell you like what workouts I was running, what training approach. Again, like we would show up day of, she would tell us, we would go jog however many miles, and that was that. But I think there was some beauty in that and not being like completely overtrained or like too focused on performance in high school. And I always remember, I literally reference it probably once a week, but in high school, my junior year, I was really stressed about like getting recruited by coaches and them seeing my race results. And so my junior spring outdoor track season, I remember like I was miserable and I was running really slow. And like I just finished a meet and sat in the car and I was sobbing. And my mom turns to me and she goes, okay, either you're going to figure out how to like be happy and do this sport like you want to, or you're going to quit. And she was like, I'm not going to like let you keep going if you're going to hate it this much. And so I think sometimes you need that tough love. And like she really was very frank with me about like, why are you even doing this if it's not fun? And so that was definitely a pivotal moment in my high school career where I kind of had to take a step back and like find joy for it again and understand, just kind of get some perspective. Like, not every little detail in race matters, and coaches aren't like stalking your results. And the most important thing is to just like find joy in it and run with freedom. And so, yeah, no like very specific approach in high school, but just like having a coach that believed in me and pushed me in many, many ways, kind of taught me the importance of, yeah, like empowering the teammates around me. Definitely learned a lot about like what it takes to be a great athlete with like sleep and fueling. And then got to college and that just probably doubled and tripled because it's really a whole new game. And I just had a friend get into running and she was like, man, I didn't realize like all the stuff you have to do besides the actual running to be good at running. And so I think that was a really cool thing from high school to college. But again, yeah, high school, it was just a similar environment of small community, people who really care about you. And then that kind of opens you up to run with a lot of freedom. My senior year was a breakout season. I didn't take running like all that serious until kind of like junior year, and then senior year I'd already committed to Wake. And so that senior spring I was kind of just running with this weight off my shoulders. And I think that was the most beautiful thing I could have done for myself, and to just kind of like let go of that pressure and run for the fun of competition. And so that was a really cool time in my life. And then shortly after high school, I was able to race at the U20 championships in Eugene, and I wore the Wake uniform, which they had just passed the rule that I was able to. And so that was a really cool transition to kind of move on from high school and then into Wake. But I would say how I was coached in high school definitely informed the coach that I looked for at Wake, which was really special.
What a story. Storybook. That's pretty awesome. Couldn't write it better.
All about
Uh,
its rocks and hills though, like injuries in there and long comeback and biking in my house and all of that. So, but that's part of the beauty.
Fought through a lot of hardships, but you know that's what it's all about. I think it sounds cliche, but a lot of people who find success always talk about finding the joy in running first.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you were able to do that in high school with that really special conversation with your mom, and then it sounds like right after that you go into your senior year and have a really strong year. It's one of those things that can come and go. You can find joy and then lose joy. The sport is pretty tough on athletes in that way. Running workouts with the boys team is also sick. I love that.
Very, very high school cliche for female distance runners. I feel like a lot of people say that when I talk to them, a lot of recruits and stuff. So But yeah, I mean, again, that joy comes from who you're with and those relationships. Like it's not the performances, it's the process with those people. So for anyone struggling to find that joy, I would say lean on the people around you. And that's what's gotten me through.
Well said. Well said. Well, that's phenomenal advice. I think that's a great place to end off the main segment of this podcast. And I think this is really one of the best conversations we've had here on the Kick. So really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Made my job very easy because your answers were really phenomenal and great conversation. But we do end things on the Kick here
All
with
right.
10 rapid fire questions. We are going to see how fast is Elizabeth Whaley's kick. Are you ready?
All right.
It's going to be on the clock. It's very
Okay.
serious.
Locked in.
All right. Clock will start after I ask the first question. Here we go. Morning or evening runs?
Ooh, morning.
Music on solo runs or not?
Yes.
Least favorite distance to run?
Ooh. Honestly, the 800, but you didn't hear that from me.
Best recovery habit?
Sleep.
Favorite thing to do on the quad?
Ooh, picnic blanket and sit on the quad.
Favorite class in college?
Ooh, consumer behavior.
Rather attend a basketball or football game?
Football outside.
If you weren't a runner, what sport would you play?
Oh, great question. I don't know the answer to that one. Come back to me on that.
Favorite pro runner?
Ooh, Allison Felix.
Best restaurant in Winston-Salem?
Oh, there used to be a place called Mojitos, but now I would say east of Texas.
53 seconds. Very solid.
Okay,
We'll let you get away.
what would my sport? Mm,
I feel like that's an answer enough.
outside. It has to be outdoors. That's my
Outside,
thing.
okay. Did you play any sports growing up?
I played JV basketball
Okay.
and soccer. So, but basketball for a long time, but yeah, I don't know how I did it. I do not like being indoors.
Okay, so outdoor sport. I like that. You went to the right school for being outdoors.
Exactly.
But 53
Honestly, a big
seconds.
reason.
Solid time, solid time. I like the answer about 800 being your least favorite event, even though you
It's a
just
tough one, honestly. Like that, oh, oof,
there's no
it's
getting
tough
around it.
for me.
There's no getting around.
Yeah.
Are you like do you feel like you go out because I feel like most people set PRs positive split, so you go out really hard and then just suffer that second lap?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know my strategy anymore because, like, I mean, I need to check my splits from the home meet, but yeah, it's been like a minute since I've consistently done some 800s, but it is a tough one.
Yeah.
I got respect for it. And
Definitely, definitely. I would say at my stage now where it's like post grad, everybody's running marathons. I kind of miss the shorter events. Like,
yeah,
it'd be
that's
fun to just
fair.
hop on the track
If you're
and
not doing a marathon, then what are you doing post grad?
right, exactly. That's really what it becomes, which is
Truly.
crazy.
Yeah.
Boston Marathon, like having gone to school
Yep.
at BU, so many people ran Boston this past
Yep.
week, which was really fun. I had the like tracking app and it had like 30 people on there. I was
That's awesome.
tracking
Yeah,
everybody.
I've had some friends do like the New York and different ones, so it's always fun to tune in for those.
Do you think marathon is in your future?
I literally have not made up my mind about anything. Like I'll be on a long run just like thinking about like, "Oh, what could I do?" I had one friend do a 100-mile week her last week at Wake, post competition, and I'm like, "Could I do that? Probably not." But just funny to think about.
If you want to be done running, that might be a
Yeah,
good way to
exactly,
force yourself to
permanently.
be done.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go. I think you're in like the best spot ever where the world is your oyster. You've got a lot of
Yep.
opportunities, options, but right
Yep.
now you've got a really exciting track season at Wake
Yes.
Forest.
Not done
Really
yet.
excited to see what you're going to do at the conference level and then of course your NCAA pursuits, which is really exciting. Maybe this would be extra storybook. You started your Wake Forest
I
career
know.
before even being there in Eugene, wearing the Wake Forest singlet. Maybe you end back in Eugene at Hayward
Oh, I
Field.
will. That's what I told my coach after that race at Wake. I was like, "We're gonna start it or finish it where it started." So, beautiful ending to the story, I would say.
You heard it here first. Full circle moment for
There we
Elizabeth
go.
Whaley. You've got me excited. I'm pumped
Thank
for you.
thank
Best of luck going forward the rest of the season. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Kick.
thank you. Take care. Bye bye.